Morning, Huddle. Okay, I'm gonna try that again because I felt like that wasn't good energy. Good evening, Huddle. Happy Monday. So last week we caught up on some interesting topics, and today we got some new interesting topics to talk about tonight. Salute to everybody who comes to our Huddle to help unite dreamers, develop, lead, and empower. Shout out to y'all. Give yourselves a round of applause. And also, a special reminder to remember as the time gets close to the holidays, the House of Justice is the place to be for our toy giveaway and other festivities on Christmas, December 25th. With that being said, I would like to have our prayer and scripture from our very own Huddler, Dan.
Amen, amen, hallelujah. The scripture for this evening is from the book of Joshua, 179, New Living Testament. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the instructions Moses gave you. Do not deviate from them, turning either to the right or to the left. Then you will be successful in everything you do. Study this book of instruction continually. Meditate on it daily and night, so you will be sure to obey everything written in it. Only then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. This is my command: be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And there are special prayers this evening in recognition of Attorney Hardy and his due diligence as we pray for him and his speedy recovery from his illness, as it is said that he is out of the hospital. So we have a special prayer for Attorney Michael Hardy. We have a special prayer for Patrice Perry. As we know, Michael Hardy is our leader. Patrice Perry has a title also, pardon me if I can't mention it right now, but she has been said to be in the hospital, and she is the senior advisor for Youth Huddle. So we are praying hard and long for Patrice Perry and her health. Please keep these two individuals in mind, as well as the holiday season. We're praying for the community of the dislocated indigents and those housed, dislocated from their communities and families especially, as well as everyone else during the holiday season. We want to keep holiday season in mind and holiday season in prayer steadfastly. So in addition to that, we're also praying for traveling mercies, especially for our college students, the international and domestic travelers. We're praying for y'all as well. And my special prayer that I'm dedicating for this evening is a prayer for anti-hate. So if we could just pray to ourselves for a moment, all hearts and minds clear, as we pray for all of these things under the sound of God's resounding voice, which we may or may not hear, that may be implicit, explicit, it may be obvious or hidden, but listen to the call of God. When you hear the call of God, take action. So we'll count a few seconds, silent prayer. Amen.
Thank you for that, Dan. So now I would like to have our announcements and action alerts from our Huddle founder and director, Ms. Ashley Sharpton. Applaud her, y'all.
Hello, guys. Okay, bear with me. We have a problem with the printers. Some things are printed and some is not. So I'm reading this from my phone. Happily had a Monday, though. All right, y'all can hear me? Yes. All right. The latest ratings are out. Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton is once again leading the way. Let's clap that up. Thank you. Thank you, Christian. The broadcast, which airs Saturdays and Sundays, at what time? All right, y'all tune in. Thank you. Has the highest concentration of black viewers, which is 41% of any program on cable news. The strong performance is part of MSNBC's running streak as the #1 cable news channel among Black viewers. I think a little help from that is because of Rev, but that's just my opinion. Politics Nation has been on air for over a decade, and Reverend Sharpton has featured a variety of guests throughout the years. Reverend Sharpton thanks his avid viewers and vowed to continue addressing the important issues of the day, as well as underreported stories that need a national platform. Whether it's police brutality, voting rights, politics, criminal justice reform, elections, reproductive rights, or anything in between, Reverend Sharpton and Politics Nation are on it. Let's clap them up one more time to him and his team. All right, does anybody know what NBC stands for? Well, NBC, yeah. National Question. NCBC, yeah. Sorry, NCBC. NCBC. Anybody know what that stands for? That's a good guess. Anybody else? No? Oh, sorry. NBC? Yeah, NBCB. National. NBC. Anyway, I'm saying it wrong. Sorry. NCBC. Sorry. NCBC. Yes. CBC. There you go, thank you. I was saying it wrong, but yeah. What is that? NCBC, sorry. Thank you, Christian, because he was paying attention because they've been talking about it since last week. All right, so the National Black Churches, the National Conference of Black Churches, was last week. Reverend Sharpton attended with his contingency. He spoke in Orlando, Florida at the conference and delivered the keynote address. If you were here Saturday, he spoke about what he spoke about there. It was pretty powerful, and you can see the clip. You can pull it up on nationalactionnetwork.net or NAN's YouTube or Facebook. And his speech focused on voter participation, the fight for voting rights in this country, and preparing for the 2024 general election. CBC, I keep saying it wrong. NCBC represents the 4 largest historically Black Christian denominations comprising of over 80% of Black Christians, a total of 20 million Americans. The annual Consultation Conference is an opportunity for faith leaders and others to come together and address issues like health equity, voting rights, and so much more, and it is chaired by NAN's chairman, Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson. Let's clap him up. At the conference, a new joint Get Out the Vote campaign was announced ahead of the 2024 elections that will focus on the key issues before Black Americans. The effort is a response to the concerted, ongoing effort to undermine the power of the Black vote in dozens of states as courts simultaneously continue to chip away at affirmative action, healthcare access, and other hard-won civil rights. At least 29 states have since enacted nearly 100 new laws in the decades since to make voting more restrictive, according to the Brennan Center for Justice. An analysis of these laws found many were racially discriminative. So this is going to be put in detail on the website, nationalactionnetwork.net, from January 1st, the actual breakdown of everything that's happening. But it was announced this week, basically at the conference. Reverend Sharpton and is also partnering organizations that are a part of that. NAN condemns Bill Ackman. We spoke about this briefly last week. What is that about? Anyone can throw it out there. Anybody? Who said it? Bill Ackman? Anybody know? Rev's statement on Bill Ackman? Usman? Harvard, yep, DEI, there we go. Okay, so this is about DEI. What does DEI stand for? Anybody want to throw that out? That's the D. There we go, okay, diversity, equity, inclusion. Thank you, Word, thank you, Christian. Everyone else, we must wake up. Okay, so Reverend Sharpton and National Action Network condemned recent despicable comments by hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman, who claimed that Harvard President Claudine Gay, that's what Usman was referencing, was only hired because she met the university's diversity, equity, and inclusion criteria. NAN unequivocally denounces anyone who calls for the genocide of Jews, Palestinians, Blacks, or any other group, but also recognizes that Ackman's statement is both insulting and outrageous on many levels. He falsely defames her character and extensive qualifications while wrapping it up in a bigoted statement. It only fuels division at a time when we must focus on unity. NAN has been pushing back against attempts to dismantle affirmative action in DEI programs both in academia and the workforce. And going into 2024, we're going to be ramping up these efforts. So you have to make sure that you understand what DEI means, what it stands for, and basically the attack on it that's happening not only from Bill Ackman, but it's literally all over. From the Twitter owner, he has been saying the most craziest things. He's the richest man in the world, so he's a whole nother mindset. But it's just so many things that's happening around DEI, and it started from the trickle down from Roe v. Wade to affirmative action, and now this. So we have to keep ourselves woke. Supreme Court, we got to fight back, honestly, and that's going to be, to me, one of the biggest pushes for 2024. The holidays with Nan, on a brighter note. We do this every week, but is everyone here going to be for Christmas? I'll be here for Christmas. Okay. All right. So the holidays with Nan. It's that time of the year again, the season of giving, and Nan is busy organizing dinners for those in need, toy and coat drives, and supporting the community. On Saturday, December 23rd, Nan Newark Tech World, that's this Saturday, I don't want you to confuse that with Monday. Saturday, Nan Newark's Tech World and affiliates will host a dinner and coat and toy drive and giveaway in Newark, New Jersey. Nan's event is supported by prominent local members of the community, including Councilman Patrick Council, Chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, Larry Ham, and others. On Christmas Day, Nan will hold its annual dinner and toy giveaway right here at the House of Justice in Harlem from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I suggest you come at 10 a.m. That's just my suggestion. Nan will open its doors for all who need sustenance, warmth, and a place to gather and celebrate the joyous occasion. Each year, elected officials, dignitaries, celebrities, and volunteers join Reverend Sharpton and Nan's staff to serve food, distribute toys, and interact with everyone at the House of Justice. If you want to volunteer, the list, I believe, is still open, but it will be closing this week as well. Yes? Oh, good question, Kirsten. Saturday is at 4. Yes, and that's in Jersey and Newark Tech World. And then, I'll get to that later. For 32 years, Nan has embraced the spirit of giving, and we invite everyone to be a part of this important tradition by volunteering or donating through our holiday drive with GoFundMe, available at nancares.net. Also on Monday, if you will be here, we will also be going to see The Color Purple at 4 p.m. at the Magic Johnson Theater on 125th Street. All right, so you can just spend the whole day with Nan, spend the holidays, bring your family. Enjoy that. Make sure you sign up if you need that information. There's a list if you have not signed up already. If you've signed up already, do not come and sign up again, please, because that you're taking 2 seats, and that's not fair. Also, King Day, because the next time, for those who don't know, next week we will be here for Monday for Christmas. There will not be a huddle on that Monday evening. So do not come here expecting we will not be here. And then the next Monday after that is New Year, so we will not be here. So this is technically what this is, the last Huddle Monday of 2023, okay? So we will see y'all the next time we see you on a Monday here, a Monday evening rather, it's 2024. And we will release the schedule for that because there will be, on the 8th in January, we're going to be doing a community action, so we won't be huddling up in regular form and fashion. And then the 22nd, we'll have the Huddleversary Thank You Gala. So the first official huddle of the year will be the last huddle Monday of January. All right, so you have a kind of a break. But you shouldn't be on break because we take every day on. And also King Day, when is King Day? The 15th, right, and we take that day on. We have a full day. We won't be here Monday night for King Day, but we have a DC breakfast. We'll be here for our annual policy forum, which is usually all day. And then we'll also be ending that day in Newark, New Jersey with Brother Bartley. So we have a long schedule for you. All the information I just shared is available at nationalactionnetwork.net. I must acknowledge the Queen Mother in the building. Gwen Carr, would you mind please standing? The mother of Eric Gardner, and she is a warrior and queen of the movement. And she has her Nan Newark Tech shirt on. Check you out. I gotta tell Bartley you got some love, but thank you for always being in the building. Thank you for being here. Also, Usman is back, our National Field Director of Youth and College. Usman Diallo is back in the building. All right, and I'm out your way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ash, for our action alerts. So now I would like to move on to our Black History Fact of the Day, done by our Huddler, Marcia. She's very excited, so clap her up, guys. To establish a reign of freedom and a rule of justice, King receives Nobel Peace Prize. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. delivers his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech in the auditorium of Oslo University in Norway on December 10, 1964. King, the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, is recognized for his leadership in the American Civil Rights Movement and for advocating nonviolence. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. received the Nobel Peace Prize 55 years ago. King received the award on December 10, 1964, in Oslo, Norway, saying he accepted it with an abiding faith in America and an audacious faith in the future of mankind. He was awarded the prize in recognition of his nonviolent campaign against racism. At the time he received the award, King was 35 and the youngest man to ever receive the prize. In this file, December 10, 1964, lies before me a photo of the U.S. civil rights leader. Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King receives the Nobel Peace Prize from Gunnar John, chairman of the Nobel Peace Committee in Oslo, Norway. In his speech, King said, "I accept the Nobel Peace Prize, for at the moment when 22 million Negroes of the United States of America are engaged in a creative battle to end the long night of racial injustice. I accept this award on the behalf of civil rights movement, which is moving with the determination and the majestic scorn, risk, and danger to establish a reign of freedom and a rule of justice. I am mindful that only yesterday in Birmingham, Alabama, our children crying out for brotherhood were answered with fire hose, snarling dogs, and even death. I am mindful that only yesterday in Philadelphia, Mississippi, young people seeking to secure the right to vote were brutalized and murdered. And only yesterday, more than 40 houses of worship in the state of Mississippi alone were bombed or burned because they offered a sanctuary to those who would not accept segregation. I am mindful that debilitating and grinding poverty afflicts my people and chains them to the lowest rung of the economic ladder." A year later, in 1963, King had given his famous "I Have a Dream" speech at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28th. The march rally drew about 260,000 people, according to the NAACP. The event was organized by the civil rights leaders aimed at outrage over racial inequities. In this December 10, 1964 file photo, U.S. civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holds his Nobel Peace Prize medal in Oslo, Norway. King was honored for promoting the principle of nonviolence and the civil rights movement. According to History.com, departing from his people notes, King then launched into the most famous part of his speech that day. "And so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream from there." He built to his dramatic ending, in which he announced the tolling of the bells and of the freedom, one end of our country to another. And when this happens, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men, white men, Jews, Gentiles, Protestants, and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of an old Negro spiritual song, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last." In 1964, thank you. In 1964, according to History.com, the civil rights movement achieved two of the greatest successes: the ratification of the 24th Amendment, which was abolished the poll tax, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited racial discrimination in employment and education and outlawed racial segregation in public facilities. King donated the Nobel Peace Prize Award, which was $54,600 to the civil rights movement. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. King was shot to death around 6 p.m. while standing on the balcony at the Lorraine Hotel by James Earl Ray. Ray was shooting at King from a nearby rooming house. King was taken to St. Joseph's Hospital, where he was pronounced dead a little more than an hour after the shooting. So I would like to have a moment of silence for Dr. Martin Luther King, because it's very sad how he died. And my great-grandmother was a part of the NAACP. So in December in December 8, 1964, the U.S. civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is welcomed by Baptist youths on his arrival in Oslo, Norway. Dr. King is flanked by his wife, Coretta Wright, and his secretary, Miss Dora McDonald. Dr. King is in the Norwegian capital to accept the Nobel Peace Prize to be presented to him during the ceremonies on December 10th. And that is our fact for today. God bless.
Thank you, Marcia. So, with that being said, I would like to present Dan for our Artivism segment. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. So we are waiting for the artist for the Artivism segment. So while we are waiting for the artist, I would like to move on to our membership and text alerts, because y'all know we like to make sure. So, is everybody an updated member for the year of 2023? Okay. So I don't have to ask if y'all renewed y'all membership, because y'all did. So this is for everybody who's live. If y'all want to come and renew y'all membership or be a member, the best way to stay informed and in the action is to become a member and stay informed about NAN events close to where you live. Text Justice followed by your state to 59769. Again, that's Justice followed by your state to 59769. And also, a huge reminder to join us every Saturday. If you want to come to the Saturday rally, you want to see the Reverend Al, 9 a.m. So, I would like to then open the floor up to any good news. Any good news? Come on, line up. Whoever has good news. Oh, I was going to call you after. Oh.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm sorry, I'm just playing with you. My good news is it's so beautiful in here. Oh my God, who did I think Reverend Sharpton said the hospitality committee did the decorations? Is that true? Well, I'm here to tell you, he already said y'all it looked good, but I'm just here to reiterate. It's beautiful. The tree, the reefs, all around are the reefs. Hey, sis! The front of the stage, all of the centipedes, it's just beautiful. It really, really is. That's my good news. Oh, my other good news is, what's that song? Oh, I wanted to sing a little bit of this song. People get ready, there's a change coming. Don't need no money to get on board. People get ready, there's a change coming. We won't need no ticket, we just gonna praise the Lord. Thank you.
Amazing. Gino, better be another good grade.
I didn't get a grade this time, but I got Regents tomorrow, my practice. Regents. Yeah.
Good luck. You know we praying for you.
So I just want to say I love the Youth Huddle, and I thank God for the National Action Network. Let's put amen right there. Give yourselves a round of applause for supporting youth if you know you ain't no youth. So my good news is I beat Mount Sinai like Rocky Balboa. My daughter will be here on Christmas Day in person. Thank God. I got ACS called on me because I believe in God. And some of those doctors, they don't believe in what I believe in. My daughter's name is Hallelujah. That speaks for itself. I beat the case like Rocky Balboa. I'm not going to say I did, God did. God did. And I never felt this supported. I haven't felt this supported since my mom passed away. So I thank God for being a member at the National Action Network. I thank God for all the women who stay in my butt. Big shout out to Goldie. I just appreciate everybody who's here because even though it may seem little to you, it could be really big to someone else. So my good news is this little black princess will not be going in Satan's den. Amen.
Hello, Nast. I'm Paulette, Sister Paulette. And, well, my good news is this. I learned something today about, I'm going to be doing a song, but Arnold showed me how to do it properly, how to sing in my own voice, and not just someone else's voice and singing along. So I learned something in that area. And I'm also learning more than I knew before here at NAS and AN. And I thank God for everyone that's here because there's a teaching in everything, be it something small, something large, or in between. And I'm here to give whatever I got from my heart as God give it to me and accept what God gives to you guys and be just a willing vessel and be grateful. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for all the good news comments. My good news is that my brother Usman came back, from college. I've been missing him, taught me a lot. So clap that up. Strong black man, All right, so now I would like to call him up, Mr. College Director for the Huddle, to close us out with our good news for the day.
Thank you, Giselle. Move, please. Thank you. What do you think this is, Christian? Okay, on the note of education, we have a 10-year-old black girl who broke the world record and wrote the longest novel with 58,000 words. Habzaiba Akinwale, a 10-year-old black girl from the United Kingdom who just broke the world record for the longest fiction book for children. Her book, Chronicles of the Timekeepers Whisked Away, boasts a whopping 58,000 words. Habzaiba, a student at Little Thetford C of E Primary School in East Cambridge, England, surpassed the previous record holder, 11-year-old Makinya Sangai, who wrote the award-winning Wizard for Sansa Nida with 44,000 words. So let's give this little black girl a round of applause, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Oos. Okay, so while we continue waiting on our Artivism segment, I would like to move on to the Did You Know Because You May Not Have Known. So, the first Did You Know is going to be done by yours truly. So my Did You Know is about, My Did You Know is about the Irvo's Law bill that's supposed to be getting passed to address access to loved ones during mental health crisis. The death of a man while in the custody of Henrico County Sheriff's deputies in March is the driving force behind a mental health reform bill that Governor Glenn Youngkin says he intends to sign into law next year. On Thursday, Youngkin unveiled several efforts to address the mental health and substance abuse crisis, one of which is a bill that would give families and caregivers access to their loved ones in crisis while they are receiving a mental health evaluation in an emergency room. In these moments of crisis, often being around someone who you know and who you love and who cares for you helps prevent or de-escalates a dangerous situation, Youngkin said during a press conference. The bill is being called Irvo's Law after 28-year-old Irvo Otieno, who died on March 6 at Central State Hospital in Dinwiddie County while in the custody of Henrico County Sheriff's deputies. So who remembers this case? Of Irvo Otieno, who remembers this case? Oh, wow, that's not good. Only 2 hands. I believe that is. Yeah, and they didn't tell her until his body was in the morgue. Yeah. To retrieve the body. Okay, you remember now? Okay, great. So, OMG, okay, so I'm saying false information, I'm so sorry. Okay, so, initially, the Henrico County Division of Police placed Otieno under an emergency custody order on March 3rd after receiving a mental health call about him. Officers took him to a hospital in Henrico where Otieno's mother said she was denied access to him. That's what happened. My son called out for me at the hospital and I asked several times to see him, but I was denied, said Carolyn Uko, Otieno's mother. Hopefully I said the name right. Police said Otieno became assaultive, so officers took him to jail. Days later, on March 6, Otieno was taken by deputies to Central State Hospital in Dinwiddie to be admitted, but he died before treatment. Otieno's family had been advocating for mental health reforms that could have prevented what happened to him. They stood beside Youngkin on Thursday when he introduced the bill. Also, we are working with community leaders to ensure that African Americans who are in distress, sorry, I was looking for the page, get the help that they need. Youngkin believes that the next year, this bill will get overwhelming bipartisan support in the General Assembly. The system failed Irvo, and we are going to work together to fix it, he said. The family plans to meet with the new Dinwiddie Commonwealth's attorney to ensure the 8 people indicted for second-degree murder and Otieno's death are zealously prosecuted. Anything less will be an affront to my son and the African Americans community as a whole, Uko said. So that concludes my Did You Know? And I don't have any questions, but I would like to say that this is a case that the Reverend Al was on, and this article is about people, the family of the victims getting help, getting mental health support. So I feel like there has to be some type of reform where if a family is grieving in a way that, they're not really supposed to be grieving in and they need help, there needs to be more access to mental health programs and places where they can go to get the help that they need. So I feel like the police department should be kind of like making little like programs to help, or like legislatives, like they should be making programs to really help families that are suffering from mental health regarding like victims of family, especially that has a lot to do with the police department. So that concludes my Did You Know? Like I said, no question. And I would like to move on to the second Did You Know? That's gonna be done by our very own Christian. Lead rep.
Okay. Good evening, Huddle. All right. My Did You Know for today is everybody aware of what Rikers Island is? Okay. So my Did You Know is on Rikers Island, and the mayor, Mayor Eric Adams, is pleading to close Rikers Island, but wavers again over the 2027 deadline. Does anybody know why the deadline is 2027? Okay, so I'm going to tell you. Mayor Adams is pleading to shutter the long-troubled Rikers Island jail complex, but recently outlined a number of challenges that could hamper the city from meeting the legal mandate to close in 2027. There's a legal mandate. While Adams proposed and promised to close Rikers Island during his candidacy, as mayor, he has questioned the viability of doing this and the imposed deadline. The deal reached under the former mayor, Bill de Blasio's administration called for replacing the jail complex with four smaller borough-based jails. I want to stop here for a second. So by law, Rikers Island has to be closed by 2027. And the proposed idea under the former mayor and his administration was to convert this one major jail into 4 smaller jails across the 5 boroughs. They have already began building one of the jails in the Bronx, in the Hunts Point area in the back. Well, you can see it going across the Bruckner, but it's not in a very visible site. They are beginning to make one in Brooklyn, in the outer skirts, because they say they don't want to put it in heavily dense populated areas. And then I believe they want to put one in Harlem, but closer uptown in Washington Heights on this side. I can't remember exactly where, but I know it's on the west side. And then the last one is either going to be Staten Island or Queens. So the issue that we are dealing with is the mayor having a legal responsibility that a federal judge, which I'm going to tell you now, Adams' latest statement appeared aimed at the growing pressure on his administration to close Rikers Island, as a federal judge weighs that the complex will either be put under outside management, also known as receivership. So now they're saying, okay, the city has to close the prison, the jail, but the background to that is that the city is closing it on their end, but it can remain open through private entities coming and maintaining the jail. This is the same jail that has been plagued by dangerous conditions and alleged abuses over the last several years. During the mayor's tenure, during current Mayor Adams, 28 people have died at the complex, though the reports are saying that this year so far, 9 people have died compared to the 19 people of 2022. Now, you know what New York City and what politicians like to do, period, is they like to give you numbers. They like to say, oh, crime is down. But crime is still crime. It doesn't matter if it's at 10% or if it's at 2%, there's still crime. People are still dying every day in Rikers Island. There are still abuses going on in Rikers Island. I was reading an article in the back because I had to search some things up about Rikers Island. The most known person that wanted to get rid of Rikers Island was former Mayor de Blasio. It was under his administration that it fully began and came into a full plan. There have been other people that have talked about it. Governors have talked about it, but nobody truly had a plan like Mayor de Blasio. Wasn't a governor. Okay. So now, my last part that I want to say before I ask a question is that last week, Mayor Adams appointed a new corrections commissioner to replace the former commissioner Malona. Who has been accused by a federal monitor of avoiding transparency. So we had the person that was in charge of the corrections department for the city of New York be alleged by the federal government of not being transparent. So in my closing, and now I'm going to ask my question, is this. We have a prison, a jail, not a prison. We have a prison that has been in New York since the 70s, if not before that. I believe it's been around since the 70s. And now, 30, almost 40 years later, they're trying to close this jail. They've been trying to close it since 2014. And we're going into 2024. It's been 10 years. An entire decade has passed, the jail is still not closed. Now we have the mayor saying, I want to close it, but there were too many things going into it. Oh, let me tell you what he said. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that part. He said the reason why he cannot close the jail is because we are still dealing with COVID, we are still dealing with an immigration crisis, and we are still dealing with other issues that really need New Yorkers' attention. So, we have a mayor that wants to close it, but is not fully closing it because he wants to deal with the immigration crisis. He believes that COVID is still playing a part in all of these things. These are his exact words. That the immigration crisis and other issues. As you know, and we talked about it last week, the mayor has already cut New York City's budget by 5%. People have been complaining to city council members, how can you allow the mayor to do this? Let me tell you why. Because they gave the mayor the authority over the budget. One city council signs and says the mayor, he gets his, I think it was over $100 billion budget. The largest budget in New York City history. That's a big budget for a city. I don't know many other cities that will have a $107 billion. Did y'all hear the word I used? Not million, but $1 billion budget. 5% of that is being cut across the board. The mayor, as we all know, is a former cop. He even said one time that he might have to cut the force that he used to be in because we now have an immigration crisis. So now the last part of this is that the immigration crisis, COVID, and all these other issues are dealing and pushing him not to want to close Rikers Island, or at least if he can't close it and make it into those 4 little small jails, give it into private ownership. Now, I don't know how that's going to be for New York City if we have a jail, a major jail. This is not a regular jail, because there are jails that are privately funded and, that are not controlled by the city, that are in the city. But this is a jail that is New York City funded. So my question to you is, how do you feel about Rikers Island and the abuses that we know that have been happening over the years? And what do you feel that the mayor should do on his side to ensure that this jail is closed and it is swift? Because people are very concerned that if this jail goes into private hands, it is going to be out of control more than it already is. And a high percentage of people that happen to be in this jail are black and brown people. People that are coming from our communities. Now they're getting rid of this jail and wanting to put it back into our communities. They're already building one in the Bronx. And they're building one here in Harlem, one in Brooklyn, and I think the last one is in Queens. Anybody have anything to say before I close? This is, God, thank you, 10 minutes. Chinatown. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make sure I understand what was asked, but my immediate thing that I was thinking when this gentleman was inquiring of what he inquired after he said so eloquently exactly what he spoke on, is to interview the inmates who are suffering. That's the best advice that I can give. I'm not sure if I'm qualified, if I have the proper credentials to say I am providing advice, but I'd say it's very imperative to understand what's going on from the inmates' perspective, if in fact it's true that there have been numerous investigations, publicly available information is limited as far as what investigations may have been going on about some of the travesties at Rikers Island that occur on Rikers Island daily, in addition to other New York City jails that have issues that occur daily. So it's important to not just prioritize the perspective of those who are not the incarcerated individuals who may be being abused or manipulating the system. It's very true that is to be inferred, is possible that a percentage of the New York City Charter historically over time has been allocated towards imprisoned corporations, and the contracts that they contract with. So from a financial perspective, I think it's like refinancing a mortgage when it comes to reassessing the power of the US dollar as it applies to spending on jails. Because I've heard, I've learned, I've listened to a lot of information about the experiences that incarcerated people have endured, particular to Rikers Island, particular to New York City jails, and it's horrible, some of the things I've heard, horrible, some of the things I've learned. So that is my suggestion specific to actualizing, checking in with the inmates and asking them what is going on, and it's possible they might give you more information than you'd be expecting or more information than you're already aware of regarding some of the horrible circumstances that may or may not be because of human error. It could certainly be an intrinsic systemic issue that's cyclical. That seems as though what the deadline that you mentioned as year 2027 is to propose to regress.
Thank you. Before Uzman comes, I want to read something to y'all that I thought I read, but I didn't. Jonathan Lippman, who is the chair of the commission to close Rikers Island, and the mayor cited that the law requiring the city to close Rikers Island described the obstacles meeting the goal, which include the pandemic, the migrant crisis, and the increased cost of construction for the new borough-based jails that are planned to replace the Rikers Island complex. So far, the Brooklyn replacement, which was built under a $3 million contract, is not expected to be completed until 2029, 5 years from now. All right?
Speaking about the borough-based jails, a lot of these jails already exist. So what they're trying to do is make them livable because they haven't been housing inmates for a while now. Like the gentleman over here mentioned Chinatown. Those jails are known as the tombs. Those already exist, but the conditions in there are so horrible that you can't house people in there. So it takes money and it takes resources to create those jails to house those people so that what's happening on Rikers Island won't happen there. So that's one of the barriers that's coming up. And what I want to ask Mayor Adams is, did he not know that there were going to be barriers to closing this jail when he was promising to do that during his candidacy? Or is it now that he's now a mayor that he's going back on his word? And for those people in there, he's talking about the pandemic and COVID-19. The conditions in Rikers Island during when the pandemic was at its height was disgusting and unlivable. So we have to find a way a medium balance to close Rikers Island by 2027. And even the federal government is talking about overtaking Rikers Island, and a lot of people don't want that.
To Minister Sandra, I know people, you have to have a license. I don't know which license is it to operate, to get into the prison. I'm sure Reverend Al Sharpton, Dr. Reverend Al Sharpton knows. I mean, I have a minister license, but you have to have, I think, it's another one, but Rev might know. All right, but it's worse. It's getting worse, and it's not getting no better for, like you say, the brown and the black, you know. And a lot of our Hispanics people want to say they're not with us. They were in slavery. They had slaves. They had Spanish people as slaves. And it hurts to know that our people, like I was trying to write my cousin, he's in Kentucky, and they don't accept letters no more. I'm not on the internet. I have the internet because of Mayor Adams, put it in the developments. But we have to keep on fighting. Like Reb said, we got to fight until we get it right.
Yeah, right. Okay, I don't really know what to say about the construction part, the physical part of jails, but what I'm present to is knowing how to manage the culture inside of prisons, because it's so dangerous. Yeah, you do some stuff, you get locked up, but you don't know if you're going to survive out of there. Now, I have an uncle who's been in jail in Pennsylvania for almost 40 years now. He ain't coming out. And, you know, growing up watching people go in and out of jails, especially Rikers as a teenager in the Bronx, I'm like, we need to learn how to manage the culture. So, you know, you think about Nelson Mandela, you think about Reverend Al, you think about the different people that have successfully left jail and turned out to be contributors to humanity. We need to learn how to do that. So I'm thinking if we can find a way to bring emotional intelligence and culture management to all of those places, it would probably take 15, 20 years. We wouldn't need any more jails. That's my guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a hot topic, right? So the conditions at Riker are deplorable. So we're all in agreement with that. The treatment for the COs are about the same. So as they are thinking about reinventing this wheel to house people, if they are housing people or detaining people in detention centers and providing wraparound services for them where they can break the cycle and start a new cycle of change, where there is some educational tools, vocational, they can have, I don't know, family visits, they can have, classes online, offline, they can have their anger management, they can get their medical. I know jail is supposed to be a punishment, but at the same time, it's supposed to be an eye-opener for change. So it defeats the purpose to make it a situation that is deplorable where, I don't know, you wouldn't leave a fly in, I don't know, much less a person, and not treat them as a human being. However, if we start with the modality of the progress of change and implement those steps, we might find change, and we might not find repeat offenders, because they'll come out with a different mindset. So that was one thing. Second thing is the detention center that was on 110th Street is now a luxury. I don't want to use the word affordable, but that's what they're saying, affordable housing, and it isn't. And the apartments are starting at probably like $100,000. So as they're closing spaces down, I think what the thought process should be also is they're closing Rikers, but what are they going to do with that space? All right? Because this is always about economics at the end of the day. So I don't think that they'll put housing over there because that's so far. But Roosevelt Island is far too. And so maybe that just might be a place that they might make just for the extremely wealthy for exclusion. Or maybe, I'm gonna just throw this one out there, that could be 4 or 5's place. I don't know what the plan is, but they do have a plan moving forward. They're just not explaining or discussing what the plan is. But we need to pay attention because the detention centers that are up are supposed to be for neighboring people in their community, and it's also supposed to be accessible for their families because people need family connection at the end of the day to get them through their process. So this is supposed to be like a learning curve, because if it was a high-ranking, law-breaking, they'd be in prison and not jail. So most of the time, these are detention systems detaining people who cannot afford bail, and they're usually for petty crimes. Actually, that's a waste of tax dollars, because they can go and get wraparound services at wraparound places. There's a lot of places out here. Why do we have to host a whole building, feeding, electricity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? It's a lot of money that's being wasted. And if the person goes to court, and then they're released. So they stayed someplace where they could have stayed in their own home. It just does not make any sense anymore.
Thank you, Ms. Gina. You see, I don't like cutting Ms. Gina off because Ms. Gina always come with the right information. So I'm grateful for her. Okay, we got 2 more comments, and then y'all know I like to end quick. So come on.
I think that as a people, we need to think about ways to raise money to help people that are at Rikers Island or in danger of going. I saw an article in the paper recently about a young man who wanted to get out of the rain one day. He didn't have an umbrella, so he went into an abandoned building in the Bronx just to get away from the rain. He was arrested. He was sent to Rikers Island because his family did not have just $2,000 for bail. While he was at Rikers Island, he was sexually molested. He was very depressed. He told his family he was really upset. They didn't hear from him for a couple of days. They went up to the prison and they found out he had locked himself in the bathroom and hung himself. The family recently sued the city, and what is this guy's name? Some big shot in the city said, let's settle this case, because if it goes to trial, the city is going to have to pay a lot more money. So, and then a couple of years ago, there was a young man who was accused of stealing a backpack. Remember that story? He ended up committing suicide. So I think we should maybe set a target and say, we're going to try to raise, $500,000 or whatever, so that situations like this can be avoided. Another problem is a lot of people do not want jails in their communities. Especially, some people initially were upset that a jail was going to be established in the Bronx. They said they always go to the Bronx first. Why is that? And then white people don't want jails in their communities because they're worried about declining property values. So those are real issues the mayor has to deal with. So I think we should figure out ways to maybe set up some sort of fund so we can raise a lot of money so that people will have money for bail and not end up languishing in jail because they don't have $2,000.
Thank you, very true. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we know that last week, Ashley talked about the wealth gap between black and brown people here in New York City against white people in New York City. Black and brown people are at, how much was it again, Ashley? 120 something. White people were at 120,000 a year? 120,000, and black people were at 18,000 here in New York. So we have to be mindful of that. And they want to take these jails and they want to put it in low-income areas where it's already negative and it's already bad. So I don't want us to forget that. And Ms. Gina said something that was good too. What is the next plan? Because the Corrections Department this year had a $3.4 billion budget. So where the money went? Come on. Oh, they're understaffed and underfunded with $3.4 billion. Okay.
Yes, I was in Rikers Island. I was sentenced to a 1 to 5 year sentence. And I know personally what happens in some of our jails. And right now we're talking about Rikers Island. And what I learned from that experience is that the jail is only a building. And what us as inmates happen, we kind of do pretty much what we want to. And you have guards there. And as long as they're securing the doors where you can't break out and things of that sort, they do pretty much what they want. And what goes on the outside happens on inside these prisons. And what I seen it just turned me off. I learned my lesson. I didn't want to part because everybody got a girlfriend. They're having sex, this, that, the other. And my point is this here. we're focusing on the structure when we should be focused on, my point of view, of what happens in the inside where people can honestly be rehabilitation and see the ways of their mistakes and want to do what's right versus what's wrong. They've been thrown in the pool where everybody is just wilding and someone else is getting paid at their expense.
Okay, last comment. Come on, sir. Last comment. Yeah.
How you doing? This is a Christian organization. I believe deeply in redemption. I believe that anybody that is caught by the police is caught by us as a society. I feel that when the police do take someone, that's us as a society using violence on that person, saying that that person is violating our social contract, and for the safety of our society, their freedom has to be taken. In our country, that freedom is taken through slavery. The 14th Amendment made slavery legal for those who are convicted of a crime. And like somebody already pointed out, Rikers is not a penitentiary. Rikers is a detention center. So the people who are held there are very often still supposed to be innocent, but are held in such horrible circumstances that they will gladly cop a plea to their guilt rather than go ahead to court and fight for their rightful freedom. The fact of the matter is that when they talk about making Rikers a private detention center, when they talk about private prisons in general, that should make all types of an alert for you, because the idea of a private prison means private slavery again. It means that once again, there's a marketplace for free labor and detained people, that companies like McDonald's, companies like Walmart, companies like Verizon can purchase this free labor on a free marketplace just like we did during slavery. And to have a detention center be for profit is a direct conflict of interest. It means that the more people in that center, the greater the profit. And the less services you give those people, the greater the profit. To have our medical industry be for profit is already immoral. To have slavery be for profit is an immorality that we have been fighting against since the conception of this country.
And so I'm going to close with this. Everybody said everything that they wanted to say. And so I'm going to close with this. Rikers Island has been the New York City jail for a long time. But what Ms. Gina said is also right. People there is not a lot of access into Rikers Island. If your family's in there, if your loved one is in there, even if you are a member of clergy, you have to go through an entire training just to step foot in Rikers Island, and they take you to the specific part that they want you to go to, because that's the part where the most egregious things are not happening. Now, the mayor has removed the former commissioner for not being transparent with the federal government about these abuses and what is going on. But privatizing this jail, Usman said, it's all across New York City. It's all across. There are jails in communities that we don't even know that they're in. And they're in plain sight, and you would never think that it's a jail. But what I want to say to you is this. Also notice where they're going to be putting these borough jails. If they are putting it in areas that have a high concentration of black and brown people, that is blatant discrimination. We already have a wealth gap that is huge. And Dominique, I think, is reading the last Did You Know that's going to talk about that and the reparations bill. But when she reads that article, you're going to see how the comptroller himself says that there is that white people, the median household income for white people in New York State is over $200,000. Over $200,000. And here for black people, it is $18,000. Now, where is the problem with that? And to live in New York City comfortably, do you know how much you have to be making? What is it? $35 an hour, thank you. Which will go into, I think, almost $100,000 a year. So, with all of that being said, and that's for a single person. If you're married with children, it doubles, which we do not always have the luxury of having. So be mindful of what is going on and stay in tune to the changes that are happening in your community, all right? All right, I'm done. Come on, Giselle.
Thank you, Christian. So for our third and second to last, did you know, I would like to call up Mr. Mobars. Clap it up for him, please.
Good evening, Huddle youth, Huddle seniors, Huddle people. I got some good news. Mayor Giuliani owes people $148 million for running his mouth. He got to come up out them pockets, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, he has to come up out them pockets. Rudy Giuliani ordered to pay $148 million to the election workers he defamed. Yes, clap it up. It's been a long time coming to get this one. He's been a slippery salmon. Yes. Okay. On Friday, a jury unanimously ordered Rudy Giuliani to pay $148 million in compensatory and punitive damages to 2 Georgia election workers he defamed. The judgment furthers the incredible downfall of a guy once known as America's mayor and likely will cement his financial ruin. His pockets was already tapped. That's what they mean by financial ruin. Giuliani's defamation trial was never going to be good for him, but the former New York mayor made it worse through seemingly arrogant and flat-out stupid conducts that irked the judge and did him no favors with jurors. In December 2020, Giuliani worked to boost Donald Trump's efforts to use lies about election fraud to retain power, claimed that a misleading crop video showed Shay Moss and her mother, Ruby Freeman, pulling suitcases of illegal ballots from under a table at a Fulton County, Georgia vote counting center. He also claimed the 2 black women were passing around USB ports like vials of heroin or cocaine. Moss told the January 6th committee last year, and she and Freeman were actually exchanging a ginger mint. These people should all go to jail, Giuliani said in the December 4th video, and they should go for a long time. That's what he said about these 2 black women running for office. Giuliani kept accusing the women of election fraud, including in public testimony. After the office of Georgia's Republican Secretary of State had already investigated and debunked those claims, he also faces criminal charges related to his efforts to help Trump concoct phony election fraud claims in Georgia. Giuliani's lies resulted in extensive and racist harassment of Freeman and Moss, including death threats, they later testified. Giuliani arrived 20 minutes late for the first day of his own trial. Tardiness, his lawyer attributed to a long courthouse security line. Later that day, Giuliani told reporters outside the courthouse that he didn't regret his statements. I told the truth, he said. They were engaged in changing votes. He said he would testify and provide proof everything I said about those 2 women are true. Stay tuned because they have no idea what we're going to hit them with, Giuliani said on his social media show that night. No idea, you'll see. We've been working on it for some time. It's all prepared. Time to take the gloves off. We don't play tiddlywinks. I'm not from that era, so I don't know what that means. Giuliani's boast could open him up to more damages. The next morning, Howard without jurors present noted he already passed up the chance to argue his change was accurate. She said Giuliani's statements were again negative and quite defamatory. His lawyer, Joseph Sibley, later argued that awarding Moss and Freedom tens of millions would amount to a death sentence and prove catastrophic for his client. Sibley asked jurors to remember Giuliani's reputation when he served as mayor of New York City and as a federal prosecutor. Rudy Giuliani shouldn't be defined by what's happened in recent times, Mr. Sibley said. This is a man who did great things for New York. Yeah, okay. Michael Gottlieb, a lawyer for the plaintiff, suggested in his closing arguments that Giuliani's arguments were elitist. Day after day, Mr. Giuliani reminds you who he is. Rich, famous people have valuable reputations, and ordinary people are irrelevant, replaceable, worthless people. That's his frame of mind. Mr. Giuliani's defense is his reputation, his comfort, and his goals are more important than those of Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. That is a fiction, and it ends today. So, during the Giuliani era, I was relatively young. I was a child, but I always seen him on the news, and I seen many adults in my neighborhood curse him out in front of their own TVs or out in the street. So I knew he was bad news if I knew nothing else. I heard rappers like Tupac and all the rappers that were hot in the 90s say his name, cursing him out. And I always knew that he wasn't right. Something wasn't right about him. Then, going through this, while you're already doing things that you're not supposed to be doing with Trump, you are yet accusing two women of doing the very things that you actually are doing to help Trump. So instead of being quiet, you put the spotlight on you, and now you owe $100 million plus. So for the people that that grew up in the Giuliani era, that experienced the Giuliani era, his ways, his tactics as a federal prosecutor, and let's not remember back in '97 when he said Rev wasn't suitable to run for mayor himself. So this is coming full circle, because if you do your homework, you see back in '97 he said that in a Daily News article. So to the Giuliani era people, and how do you feel about this man being found guilty of lying on these two black women, accusing them of taking suitcases of ballots? Picture two older women with ballots, of voting ballots, and they're pulling them to their car. They're just dragging them out in public down there in Georgia, and they're just dragging ballots to the car all free willy-nilly without a care in the world. And it looked like they were doing cocaine and these other drugs. Like, these are the things that he said. So those words cost him $100 million. So how do you feel about Giuliani? What you remember Giuliani as during the New York era? For the people that, the young people and the people who really didn't, pay attention, like, give me your experience with Giuliani in the New York era, and how do you feel about this article here today, right now, and him being, stuck up for this money?
Thank you. Well, I am most definitely not from the Rudy Giuliani era. I'm not that old, so y'all bear with me. But I do know about Rudy Giuliani. The mayor that I know started was Mayor Bloomberg. Y'all born to Bloomberg, okay. But what I do want to say about Rudy Giuliani is what we talk about when we talk about Donald Trump, is that I think that this is good for Rudy Giuliani. And he still has a lot more legal cases that he is dealing with. And I feel, I kind of feel sorry for him, but as I was standing there, I searched up, because I was like, Mo, what is this man's net worth? And he only has about a $50 million net worth. So that's not even half of the amount that he owes these people. And he's done, making money from whatever he was making money from. Everybody that was associated with him, disassociated with him. He can no longer practice law here in the state of New York, or practice law in, I think, a few other states that he had, because New York has the toughest bar exam possible. But let me tell you one of the reasons why people liked Rudy Giuliani. And the reason why they liked him was because they believed that he helped clean up crime in New York, and he's the reason why the police department is where it is today. That's what people say. But I think that Rudy Giuliani, from the time he got in office, was a corrupt man. From the moment he gave Donald Trump, allegedly, the moment he gave Donald Trump the keys to the city to do whatever he wanted, that was the issue. Donald Trump has been able to rule New York City, and which has allowed him to step into the office that he was able to get into as being president. And so we are dealing with the effects of a Rudy Giuliani era, and so this is good for him. He defamed these people. He said that they were liars, that they were frauds because they did not agree that Donald Trump was the winner when these are the people reading the results. How can you tell somebody that is an eyewitness that that did not happen? Were you there? So, in closing, what I'm going to say is that Rudy Giuliani got what he deserved, and I pray that Donald Trump has his day with this same fate that Rudy Giuliani has, because we already know that Donald Trump is not a billionaire, which he claims to be, but Donald Trump got some stuff coming his way too.
Thank you, Christian, thank you. And for me, this is both comedic and ironic, and the only thing I wish that could happen at this point, if Mayor Dinkins was still alive and he was able to see this, because under Mayor Dinkins, in fact, crime did go down because he instituted stuff like community policing and things of that nature. And as soon as Giuliani came in, he started attacking him and his police chief. And that's when they got this sort of tough on crime thing. And it was also telling, because we just spoke about Rikers, he influenced and made a lot of our people go into Rikers Island. Now that he has to face these sort of consequences, it was like sweet and bitter, like at the same time.
Thank you.
I mean, I was around that time when Yusef Hawkins from Brooklyn, I don't know who the mayor was at that time. When Yusef Hawkins died?
Yeah, somebody was made.
Okay. So I don't.
We'll figure it out.
Okay, he'll find out.
Okay.
Okay, but when I was a nurse back in, and I went into Howard Beach to do one job to cover somebody's case. And they stopped me in the street and asked me, where am I going? It's in the summertime. This was before Yusef Hawkins died, got killed. And them Italians, whoever that was, I don't even remember. You're stopping me, asking me, where am I going? I'm going to work. And this is what they do. If we don't take care of our communities, where we live at, nobody, like Rev said, nobody's going to help us.
Thank you. Giuliani era.
Yeah. So I didn't really start paying attention to politics until 2012, but I was in the World Trade Center on 9/11 when the plane hit the building. And so at that time, I was just reading the news, the Times, and the Post, and they had lots of good things to say about Giuliani. So I ain't know how he was. I had no clue. But since I started watching him, and I'm listening to the words that come out of his mouth, I'm listening to the principles he's living his life by, which is BS. Completely. This is why he lost his money the same way Fox is and everybody else is. And we live in a new era. I'm a former astrologer, so I know that we are now in the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age is about information, communication, and relationships. And unfortunately, and very fortunately, you cannot stop an idea whose time has come. So they could go ahead and try to do all of those witch hunt stuff all they want. Ain't gonna work because God ain't playing that game. God is actually doing like Homie and Homie the Clown. Homie, don't play that.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Giuliani era, how do you feel about today's article and your experience during his era, if you were here during that time in New York?
I'm so happy to have a chance to speak about Mr. Giuliani. I was in my 20s in 89, 90, or 93. I remember when Mr. Giuliani started a riot against Mayor Dinkins. Mayor Dinkins, who had already cleaned up the city more than any mayor had ever cleaned up crime in this city. he and the firemen and the policemen went and had a riot at City Hall, very similar to the January 6th riot. In fact, I feel, those roosters came home to roost. And then, once Giuliani got in on completely racist terms, just like Trump did with his birtherism, Giuliani got in on strictly racist terms against David Dinkins. And then he started stop and frisk. Stop and frisk violated the civil rights of every young man my age in this city. I could not walk in Harlem or Brooklyn without being taken by the police, pulled to the side just for walking down the sidewalk, have them rifle through my pockets, or literally strip search me in the street. I had my civil rights completely denied time after time in Giuliani's city. If you remember correctly, Trump accused those boys of that rape, put up a whole ad. That should have been a defamation case right there. And of course, who can forget Giuliani time? Abner Louima suffered horribly at the hands of police, emboldened to the point by Giuliani that they said that this is Giuliani time, so that gave them the right to sodomize this black man in an official capacity working for us as a society. Giuliani, I am sure, is now being revealed for the racist, hateful man he has always been. And I only pray that people recognize that Trump and Giuliani come directly out of New York City racist politics and racist communities.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for going in detail and breaking down the question of the evening. Next up.
Good evening. So I do remember in the times of Giuliani, and I remember it was a lot of fun before that. We was playing skellies and two-hand touch and all that stuff. And this dude came in office, man, I never got in so much trouble. And I couldn't really figure it out because, you're kind of young and, you see your parents talking about politics and all of that, and you be like, nah, get out of here. And then when it really is affecting you, you're not, some youth don't really pay attention. That's why I try to bring as many people, to come to the huddle as possible. So during that era, I remember it very well because I was always getting pulled over for something that was made up, and I really didn't understand it. So I did live through that, and I do remember, and I'm glad that he's getting what he deserves and that the things that was done in the closet is coming to light.
Thank you, sir. Ed Koch was the mayor during the Yusef Hawkins? All right.
So, yes, during the Giuliani era was probably the worst time in history for people of color everywhere because he reigned with an iron fist, like this other guy, 45, his buddy. But I'm going to tell you something. I can remember so many phone calls, my brother, my cousins, calling me from the precinct all the time. And I'm like, why are you calling me now? You got to come up here. What did you do? I didn't do nothing. I was just walking. So at first, I couldn't fathom that. But as I was paying attention, stepping to the side, looking, watching, observing, the police were out here like they were just enjoying this, like it was rec time for them. They abused their badge, their right to carry guns, dehumanizing people of color, and it was always towards our men in particular. And this is why I believed during that time frame of his reign, why a lot of our men of color are struggling now with employment opportunities and education opportunities because they were always thrown into the correctional system wrongly. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Thank you so much. Okay, final thought. First of all, thank especially the last, I want to say, 3 people who really touched on your experience with Giuliani. One thing I heard consistently is that people were really getting stopped a lot for basically no reason, and not just to say, you know, people weren't committing crimes and doing things they had no business doing back then, but from 3 different people I've seen from particularly 3 different age brackets, they pretty much said the same thing in consistency about police officers and how they moved back then. And like one of you said about David Dinkins cleaning up the city, you know, when it came to, one thing I remember as a child when they talked about cleaning up Times Square, that's one thing they always associated with Giuliani. You know, the whole guardian angels and him cleaning up all those, you know, little booths and the prostitution and the drugs by Port Authority. They always credited him with that when it came to New York and, you know, called Giuliani America's mayor. You know, these are the things, these are the titles that these type of people get that they really shouldn't get. But, you know, like Malcolm said, the chickens always come home to roost. And they're roosting for 100 million, 148 million. And I don't know how he's going to pay that. Maybe Trump shoot him alone. I don't know what's going to happen. But one thing, like Usman said, I really do wish David Dinkins was here because he probably would really smile at this, you know, being in that era and what Giuliani did and how he sabotaged and how he finagled and finessed to get into office, just like the brother said, Trump did for so many different reasons, whether racial or financial or racially charged. So thank you everyone for participating in this Did You Know? Goodbye, Giuliani. One more clap for his final parting from this whatever. Giselle.
Thank you, Mo. So for our last Did You Know, I would like to present our Huddle co-founder, Miss Dominique Sharpton. Clap it up for her, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I will just put a disclaimer out there. I know that this conversation can get hot and heavy, so just be mindful of the time. We want to make sure that we get to dinner on time and that we can get out on time in a timely fashion. But I'm talking about reparations. Reparations is something that we as people of color, I think, have been worried about and fighting for a long time now. The question has become with reparations, not to me whether or not we deserve reparations, because I think that is definitely a well-known fact. We definitely deserve reparations. I think the challenge has been how reparations are defined and how it has been presented to get a bill passed in recent times. But this may be a solution. I don't know. Let's see. So, for young people to just know what reparations, as it is defined, reparations, what it means. Reparations are broadly understood as compensation given for an abuse or injury. The colloquial meaning of reparations has changed substantively over the last century. So they've been changing the definition, literally, of what reparations mean. The following forms of reparation exist. There are 5 different types of reparations: restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition, which means it can't continue happening. That's it. They follow an individual or a collective and inclusive approach. Now, with that said, by definition, what we've been fighting for and presenting, it has been challenging, of course, to get it passed through Congress and Senate, and then, of course, even, the president to even, write a special order. It's because I think the way that reparations are clearly defined, not the fact that we don't deserve it, but the way that they are defined. And so in this article, which was written by the Amsterdam News, and we want to always uplift especially our black media and our black media outlets, because we appreciate them. They've been talking for us, standing for us, and representing us for a very long time, and we should always uplift our black media. So let's give it up for the Amsterdam News. In this particular reparations bill, they're saying in New York State that everyone will benefit. So it's not just about what black people deserve and giving reparations to people of color. They're creating a bill that includes that everyone will benefit from this particular reparations bill. Okay. There is no inequity without reparations, according to the New York City Comptroller's new report on the state's racial wealth gap. Okay, so Christian was talking about this a little earlier. The findings point specifically to home ownership, along with retirement funds, investment assets, and student debt as factors exacerbating the wealth gap created by historical injustices. 63% of white New Yorkers own their primary residence, compared to just 24% of black New Yorkers. Definitely a wealth gap. So if you look at ownership, if you're talking about the wealth gap, it's not just that, well, black people make less than white people. No, we're talking about home ownership and equity. It is the facts that white people or people that are non-color make substantially more in home ownership and equity than those of black people. All right, stay with me, y'all. If you're not already a homeowner, the prices also have skyrocketed and you can't just possibly afford to become one. This is what the New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander, said. You're stuck continuing to rent. You're not building up any equity in your home, and things get worse across generations. So where's your connection to reparations? The connection is the legacy of slavery and systemic racism and Jim Crow has historically made it much more difficult for people to buy a home, to have any money to invest. So they're taking a different approach towards reparation, focusing on home ownership and equity being accessible to people of color. Y'all got me? All right. Brad Lander also added that white homeowners, himself included, have seen property values steadily rise, increasing their net worth and creating generational wealth that is then used to further invest and send their children to college without incurring mounting student debt. So at National Action Network, we have been fighting for student debt relief. We've been fighting for equity home ownership. We've been fighting for black people, people of color, to have access to these funds, to these opportunities, because it will help us to bolster the generational wealth gap that we have seen for so long occur. Stay with me. Ultimately, these factors create a frightening disparity. The median white New York State household boasted a net worth, get this, of $276,000 in 2021, while the median black household only owned $18,870, according to the data from the Service of Income and Program Participation. So they do these surveys, which they also utilize in order to figure out where the wealth lies, or where the wealth resides in New York City. Okay? Clap it up, she said. The report argues that reparations would both close the gap and benefit both white and black New Yorkers. Well, how so? Brad Lander connected financial security to lower crime rates and more home ownership to economic growth. So if you give the opportunity for people of color to own their land, to own their homes, then it will help to reduce things like crime in New York City that raises other disparities, as we know. They start building more jails. They start trying to get funding from elsewhere in order to leverage what's happening with crime. Over-policing, all these things come into effect, right? On the other hand, reparations are the only opportunity to address injustice, in his opinion, but they're also an opportunity to unlock this solidarity dividend and wind up with a safer and more thriving city, state, and country for everyone. The question is, do we agree with Brad Lander in taking this approach that home ownership and equity can help not only to provide reparations for people of color on one scheme or one scope of things, but also to provide other opportunities that can bolster the neighborhoods, bolster communities, and of course bring people together in equality. So that is the question. Do we agree with this or do we not agree with this? Some people, especially people of color, and we've seen, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and many others taking their bills, to the House for many years, saying, well, black people need reparations and you need to pay the bill. Well, these are other approaches that have been introduced that seem a little bit more approachable, right? Acceptable to deal with, that take a different approach while we're still trying to accomplish the same goals. What do y'all think?
I feel as though it's important to mention that it's agreeable, but it's also disagreeable. Now, I could get off the microphone and that'd be my statement, but the reason why I feel like it is disagreeable is because those who are not directly impacted by slavery here in the Americas, as a descendant of those enslaved camped people, it's important to disagree with something that is providing an equitable solution for all, yet that population of 100% everyone, i.e. all, is not whom has been the most impacted by the travesty that reparations are addressing. So it's important to disagree in regards to understanding the concept of why reparations are taking into effect and being tabled in conversation, just because it is that serious.
Okay, thank you.
Dominique, when you was talking, I said, say what? So you telling us that these sons, is saying that here it is, the black folks is fighting for everything and we getting cut up and holes down and chopped up with all, the 60s and all this kind of fighting for liberation, all this kind of thing here. Now you telling us that the white folks is deciding that reparation ain't gonna just be for the black folks who was brought here as slaves or enslaved. Now you want to give it to everybody and make it a unified whatever. Okay. Had I not come here today, I wouldn't have known that. Okay? This is some flack-a-lacking, BSing, okay? And so Dominique, now everybody in here should have really been on the floor. Because here it is, this is what these people do all the time. They climb over us, wipe their feet all over us, and get over. Okay. Now, Mayor Adams was on Tiempo Sunday. For those of you who don't know what Tiempo is, one of my favorite news reporters on Channel 7, Mayor Adams was interviewed by, I forget the brother's name. But anyway, he said there's 67 million immigrants in these shelters. 67 million. So I just wanted to bring that out. But as far as this whole reparation thing, I remember I went to City Hall and as a NYCHA resident, I brought to their attention, you have committees in City Hall. They have the Committee for Public Housing, Committee for Public Safety, Committee for this technology and all this kind of thing here. And I went and I told them, NYCHA people, y'all owe us reparations. Those of us that live in NYCHA, when management was managing NYCHA, whereas the manager, you couldn't throw stuff out the window, you couldn't go on the grass, you couldn't do all this and that. And you didn't need a tenant association. Management took care of business. And you allowed crack to come in, you allowed us to become dysfunctional, you allowed us to be zipping our lips, you couldn't rat on nobody, and this one was there, and you turned NYCHA and its residents into animals. And I took my butt to City Hall. For those of you who don't know, go to City Council Look at the calendar. Look what committees, look what days that different committees are having their meetings. Take your butt down there and testify. Start testifying. Go down there and let them committees know how you feel about stuff. Because if they're investigating, if those city council people are there to investigate city agencies, they just there making 6 figures while most of us is getting welfare checks. They there getting 6 figures talking about they investigate. They ain't investigating squat. I took my butt down there, going off the topic, and I told them, you owe NYCHA residents reparations. You talking about you need 78 with $1 billion. You talking about you need $78 billion, NYCHA, to give us new buildings and new faucets and all those kinds of 78 billion with a B. That's more money than the infrastructure costs. I go to meetings, that's how I found out. Okay? So this is what we need to confront. You're going to give us our reparations. You're going to turn us out, and then you're going to tell us now, because Dominique told us, not only can we get reparations, but you want to give it to everybody and make it a kumbaya. Ain't that something? That's some BS to the highest degree. Sorry, I took a lot of time. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to thank you. No, while she mentioned something, I just wanted to bring this up because it was also mentioned in the article that Brad Lanzer is forming a commission. So that's like a task force on this bill, basically pushing the governor to take action on this bill by the new year. So they're doing it very aggressively, which the new year is in a couple of weeks, y'all. And this task force would basically examine, like she was saying, examine the state's historic role in profiting from chattel slavery and what measures it could take to reverse such injuries. Now, also, want to just point out that they also said that Black people, people of color, are the most consistent voter base in the state of New York. And if the governor wants to look good for re-election, it would behoove her to start looking at these issues and these bills in order for people of color to really trust and entrust the governor to do the right thing. Just wanted to point that out. Christian.
Thank you. And so, sorry, 1 second. Okay. My opinion on this is that it is good that we are getting reparations, but I do think that we need to take into account how this is going to affect not just Black people, but including white people. I did not hear the entire thing, but I did read some of it, and it's not weird, but it is weird that they want to include white people in this reparations bill. I mean, I don't understand where white people really need reparations. Now, people say, there were white people that sharecropped because, there were poor white people, there were white people that were poor, but they were not enslaved. They were sharecroppers. There's a difference between indentured servitude and a sharecropper. When you sharecrop, there's sharing going on. We were enslaved people. So for these people to be included with reparations, but what I think it is not more of trying to give Black people reparations. What it is more of a political gain. And you have to go to the racial undertones that are behind this bill. For them to include white people, not only is that going to give us an economic boost, that is giving them an even higher economic boost. Because if they're already making over $200,000 a year in a medium income household, the most that ours would go to would probably be at least $100,000, if even that. But these people, they can skyrocket to up to almost $500,000. So we have to be mindful of that. There's already a wealth gap without reparations. And the next thing is that there's going to be an even bigger wealth gap with reparations. Yes, they want to cut down on crime. What I want to say is this. That is also a little racial. Do they only believe that Black people commit crimes? Did nobody else hear that? that they want to give us reparations to cut down on crime. So do only black people in America commit crime? No, because there is a good percentage of white people that are also in jail. So we have to say that. So we need to be mindful of that. And should the governor really sign the bill? A lot of people were pushing for her to sign the bill, but now that I'm hearing about it, I'm having my own little thoughts. Governor, should you really sign it? Is it really going to be a good thing? Maybe there's a reason why she didn't want to sign it. Because there were people from across the city and the state, oh, sign reparations, and it was not coming from the black people in the Senate. It happened to be coming from the white people. And I like Brad Lander. He's doing a good job as comptroller, but those little parts that black people will reduce crime and give white people reparations. Next thing I'm going to say is that, maybe I should run for president in 2024. Just start coming up with crazy stuff. Can't do that. It's not legal, but I'm just saying. When you say crazy things, I can add more crazier things. But come on, those were my thoughts on it.
That's why I come out here on Saturdays and Mondays, because Reverend Al Sharpton is giving the good news. All right.
Thank you. Before we have our last two comments, I just also wanted to say that in Brad Lander's meeting last week, some of the people who attended, Giuliani Williams, our public advocate, and I think that his comment, so he said that reparations was a no-brainer, pointing to the history of nearby Wall Street, where a slave market was once held, as evidence of the state's quiet complicity. He also dismissed the current debate about who should receive reparations as a distraction that is intended to shut down the conversation. So here's my thought, and I'm gonna say final thought because I know it's 8:07 and we're gonna have two probably lengthy comments. No, it's not to laugh. I'm just saying that maybe when you talk about reparations, and by definition, we just laid out what the definition is. Maybe, and if Brad Lander wants to come out with a homeowner's bill and all that, that's great. But don't call it reparations if it's to benefit everyone. Because reparations, I think, should go specifically for, to, and about people of color. That is my thing. So don't call it reparations. Take that off the table. Call it the homeowner's bill. Call it access to homeowners, whatever. But don't call it reparations and try to get away with that. That's my thought on that. Yes, ma'am, come on forward.
Well, I think it's my opinion what's happening to us and to our people in Harlem, other cities all over the United States is, in our communities, we get polluted with drugs. You got drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, illegal drugs, drugs, and we're not addressing those things. You're talking about a building when all these other things are going on to our people that hurts our people. You can build a building, but if your kid is still using drugs, taking drugs, selling drugs, because where would we get drugs and weapons had not somebody with money provided it? I know it wasn't me. I don't know if anybody here, all right, can be responsible for our community with drugs. No, it's the white man. So he want to disillude you, have you look at direction, talk about a building when you're killing our children, our community, our tomorrow. I mean, you got to. It's like putting icing on a cake, but you ain't putting none of the ingredients in, but you got icing. Where's the cake?
Well, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I want to say that I really think that we all need to open up our eyes, because the reality is there has been, first of all, there's a modern-day slavery happening right now with all these migrants coming here, but throughout, I know many people who came here through people who said they were law and they weren't, and they don't even have a green card. They are slaves. They are not making the money they should. They're working. They come here. Some came through the Canadian border, many different ways. And we're under an attack by Satan. Anybody who's God-fearing. Why I come here is because this is a Christian organization. You put God first. God is not prejudice. God is against crime and breaking the 10 Commandments. And a lot of people don't realize Jewish people, they were hurt, they were discriminated, Christians too, and Italians. They hung Italians, they called them crime family, and the Italians were the ones who were quietly protecting English and the law. And they really got the boot because the Civil War, they did not want to make a free country. And right now, the migrants coming here are somebody who thinks that they're above. There are people who are not from God, blessed with land, and they don't want to give you food. They want to have the best food, and I'm going to give you one example. Solar energy. There are two types, and I would have brought them with me. I'm going to bring them next Monday. One is real solar power, it looks like glass, and the other one looks like plastic and it has mercury in it. Because there is a mentality, what's happening now is people are saying, I get the good, rich, best, the fat of the land, and you get the scraps. And that's what's happening. It happened before, and it happened in other countries. And this is what we have to open our eyes, because if you go shopping, the food is expensive, and it's not good. Reparations, what my point about this is I think our court is being broken because reparations, you want money for something. That's civil court, as I said a long time ago, when you want to sue. Reparations are taken down the civil court. If somebody did you something wrong, there's compensatory or punitive damages, which cover in the 5 things that you said. So somebody is like breaking down our court system. And the last thing I'm going to say is we have to move to the future. We are talking about 1,000 years ago, how many years ago? And we need to go forward now because we have migrants, we have drugs that aren't even healthy, and our food isn't healthy. People are going to be overweight because when you eat food, it's not good. So what are we worried about? Let's move forward and make money. We have the opportunity, and those people don't have protection, the migrants. It's a modern day slavery.
Yes, I understood. However, in the climax that we are in right now, I think that one, it's important we're talking about reparations, and we're talking about reparations to people of color. We're not talking about reparations to any other race, although we can have those discussions, but we're talking about specifically how reparation impacts and affects people of color and what we deserve. So I just want to lay that out there, that yes, solar energy, all of that stuff is important. However, we are talking about what is due to people of color for the systemic racism, the hurt, the hatred that has been put on us for generations. We can talk about 1,000 years, but it shouldn't have taken 1,000 years for us to keep having this discussion talking about reparations. So I feel like if you are an ally or if you are someone who supports people of color in this situation, I think it's important to guide the conversation correctly, and the fact that we deserve what we deserve, and we deserve people to speak about how we are going to get what we deserve. Thank you so much.
You think we should end it like that? We should end it like that?
Well, that ended the Did You Know segment. What's on your mind? Y'all can find Dominique on Keeping It Real with Al Sharpton throughout the week if you want to hear more from her. She dropped the mic though. I wish Anaya was here so she can add to the reparations conversation as well. Okay, so we have a fun part that we're going to end with today. Thanks to, who knows Brother John? He moved, he used to take pictures here. Brother John? No? John Cunningham? Well, salute to you, Brother John Cunningham. He gave us a few gift cards 2 weeks ago when he was visiting, and we're going to use them today to give them out before the holiday season in a trivia, okay? So the only rules to this trivia, anybody can answer and win. It's not just for the young people. Some young people left, so it's only 5 questions. The only rules are no yelling out. So you please only answer if you are selected, okay? Use your hand, raise your hand. And is there anybody who does not want to participate? Everybody wants to participate. You can participate. No adults are, come on Arnold, help me. I need help then, come here. Okay, so it's no yelling out, only answer if called on. So Arnold, you're gonna help watch whoever's hand goes up first. If there's a young person whose hand is up, they automatically get to answer first, okay? No, no cheating. If you have won already, you cannot answer, okay? So if you won, you can answer the question, you win, you're out of the game, okay? Everybody got it? All right. What was the first did you know topic this evening? Giselle? Irvo Otieno. All right, let's clap her up. There we go. That was. What year is Riker supposed to close? Who got their hand up first? Christian? All right, that's correct. All right. What is National Action Network and Reverend Al Sharpton's position on as a solution on the Israel-Palestine war? What hands first? Wait, did Usa's hand go up? Oh, in the pink? Okay. The solution for the Israel-Palestine war, Nan or Reverend Sharpton's stance? Okay. That's not it. Sorry. Who else is next? That wasn't the answer. What's that called? You gotta get it right. I'm sorry. You gotta get this is the last of the year. We gotta speak it properly. Usman. Two-state solution is the correct answer. Let's clap him up. You tried. That's two-state solution for those who did not hear it. That is Nan's and Reverend Sharpton's stance on the Israel-Palestine war. All right. This one is the easy one. How many years of Huddle have we been in existence, and when is the exact anniversary? Nobody? It's the second part that tricked y'all out, huh? You can say the month. You don't have to say the exact. Her hand is not up. Whose hand was up first? Who? Goldie? Or Inola? Whose hand was up? Come on, brown bandana. Oh, so then it's a two-part. Whose hand was up? Whose hand was up? Help me. I don't know. Everybody's hands start to go up.
Who was after that?
It's Lisa? 10 years, and what's the date? No, sorry. I'm sorry. We celebrate in January.
Okay, Kathy.
Mom's this? Yes. Which is what? Yes, there you go. Let's clap mommy up. Somebody take her thing. She can't walk all the way up there. All right, and the last question. This is also a doozy. What are 3 topics we discussed in Huddle tonight that could help shape the 2024 election? Want me to say it one more time? Her hand is up, so I'm going to say it one more time. What are 3 topics we discussed in Huddle tonight that could help shape the 2024 election? Your hand was up, so you can go first. Purple.
Can't speak. In the purple, right?
You can hear it, Usman? Did we talk about that tonight? We didn't talk about it. Wasn't a topic. Even when we talked about it, it wasn't a topic. Who else?
In the pink, go. Stand up.
Reparations, okay. Is that related to the election?
He said 3 things that can help out the election.
Mm-hmm.
He also talked about how we deserve more than what we are getting, is what I got.
Okay, that was 2. That was a good attempt. I'm sorry. We gotta go. Red jacket, you're young. You had your hand up. Christian, you vote because I can't hear him. Y'all voting on that? Is that 3? Yeah, that's fine. We can, okay, come on up, brother. All right. No, that wasn't you, baby. That was Red. Sorry. There you go. All right, thank you very much, and that's it. Well, there's one left. I don't have one more question. Anybody have a question? Want to give me a question? Anybody? There's one more card left. Yeah, you want a question? Come here. Last question.
Okay, last question. What year did Dr. King receive his Nobel Peace Prize? Oh, well, he's a young man. Go ahead. Oh, well, technically, okay, technically. Yeah, all right, give her a hand. Well, since I'm here, I'm going to close us in prayer. Did we have a good huddle tonight? Excellent. All right, now I know we're ready to eat, and so I don't want to stand between the people and the good food. Can we give Mama Kathy and the team a hand for the good food? All right, and let's all stand for prayer so we can be dismissed. Let me say it as Patrice would say it, all hearts and minds are clear, and all bodies are still. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this opportunity in this time that you have brought us here to gather. We thank you for every conversation that we had and everybody that contributed. Now, God, we ask that you bless the food. Thank you for the hands that prepared it. Remove all the impurities from the food and let the food bless our mind, bodies, and soul. And as we leave this place, but never from your presence, get us home safely and give us traveling mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. We're dismissed. Go.